Let's move on to the 15th, where all three squadrons are still getting settled in, although they are stood up to the point where they can execute missions on the day. It does end up being a short day, however, and 441 describes the day as 5 patrols of 4 aircraft each were carried out over the high eastern area, all of them uneventful. 442 was on 60-minute readiness until 1300 hours, then on 30 minutes for the afternoon, and back on 60 for the balance of the day. Lots of time to get fireplaces built and dugouts enlarged. At night, there was a feed of fried potatoes, hot chocolate, and marshmallows. German planes were in the vicinity again after dark, and no missions carried out by 442 on the day. And 443, weather cloudy with scattered showers, medium clouds. Squadron now operating from B2 airfield. Adjutant and clerk in a wing pool, centrally located for convenience to wing headquarters and intel/ops. Echelon clerk also in the same pool, and his work is being supervised by squadron adjutant. Advice was received today from BPSO, and that's, I presume, Base Personnel Service Office. That's what that acronym usually means. That Flight Lieutenant McLennan was a prisoner of war. He had been reported missing after an operation on 7th of June 1944 when he was seen to crash land in enemy territory near Cabourg, Normandy. I remember that. We'll have another look at that here in a second. Squadron took part in one armed recce in the morning without incident, and aircraft have been moved from a temporary dispersal to a permanent one prepared at the west end of the landing strip. And I mentioned Flight Lieutenant McLennan and his crash up here on the 7th. And yeah, I remember now making the search for his aircraft in the overhead imagery that we have here, and nothing did turn up with that. So if I remember the story correctly, he had crashed in a field just here a few miles to the east of Cabourg, was observed by his wingman running towards some farmhouses until the wingman was chased off by flak. So apparently he was captured and is a prisoner of war. Not a great fate to befall him, but better than the alternative, I suppose. I just paused to do a little more digging into the story, and after capture he was sent to Stalag Luft 3 in eastern Germany, and this would have been after the events that most people are familiar with from the Great Escape at Stalag Luft 3. But in January of 1945, the Soviet army was capturing the place and the camp was evacuated. He was put onto a train, and as they neared the Austrian border, he and one other guy escaped, hid in farms until they were able to reach the American lines and return to Canada after the war. Now, the missions for the day. 443 was up first on an armed reconnaissance. This was 10:30 to 11:40. 12 aircraft dispatched an armed recce, MOR-2, Area 4 to Argenton, Domfront, Alençon, L'Aigle. 1 MET smoker claimed by Flying Officer Horrell, otherwise Highways Bearer of Traffic. Accurate medium light flak thrown up from Alençon. 7/10 cloud base, 2,300 to 5,000 feet. Average height of patrol was 4,000 feet. And it mentions here, like it has been all along, things like MOR-2 and Area 4 for these armed reconnaissance missions. And we've seen other areas, and I think I made an attempt at one point to decipher that and to figure out which is which, but I really don't have that much to go on. And MOR-2, I was thinking originally that these types of callouts might have been referring to the road network that they were following and looking on in general, but I'm just really not sure. And the document that deciphers all this is going to turn up somewhere, and in fact, at the end today, I had intended to go through some additional document sources here, and I have the UK National Archives sort of guide page for RAF operations. We'll have a look at this, and I'll show you where I'm getting a lot of this information from, but let me move on first to the 441 Squadron patrols, 1320 to 1840, and these were high eastern patrols, and the first 4 and the last on the next page, completely uneventful. Last down for the squadron, 1840. So, like I said, a very, very short day, and I haven't looked ahead to the next day yet, but it does appear that they are getting settled in well. And I suppose just to close out, I'll have a link to this page in the video description if you want to check it out. And this is just a guide page that shows you where to go within the archives to find what you're looking for. I've been using up to this point operations record books, and if I come down, right here, and we have a section for operations record books applying to the squadron under the Air 27 heading. So if I click on that link to find what you're looking for, the easiest way that I've found is just to type in, and let's just say, for example, I want to go for one of the other squadrons, 411 Squadron, and I'll narrow it down to just 1944, hit search. And there we go. Here, it's broken down by month. So I have Summary of Events, which is the Form 540, for August right here, and then record of events. This is the more detailed Form 541. So if I click on the link here, these are digitized and can be downloaded as a PDF file. So for whatever it is, £3.45, you can download the digital copy and save yourself airfare to the UK to go and dig this up yourself. And I'll go back to the main page, and there's just no lack of things that would be interesting to look into. We have Directorate of Intelligence and other intelligence papers under the Air 40 header. So scrolling down here, let me find something that looks like would be very, very interesting for us here. Yeah, here's a good example. 2nd Tactical Air Force Report on German Air Force Activities. This was published in 1945. Now for this one, it is not digitized, and that's the case for the vast majority of what's out there to aid in research. And another good place to look, if I come down to Expeditionary Forces, and we have the Air 37 series, which applies to the Allied Expeditionary Force, of which 2nd Tactical Air Force and the wings we're following are a part. So if I come in here and I'll just type in a quick search in Air 37, and I just paused recording and I was just doing some random searches for things like tactics, and this looks interesting. 2nd Tactical Air Force, tactics used by squadrons during the campaign in Western Europe. And this, unfortunately, has not been digitized, but if a person wanted to check this out, it would just be a matter of coming down here, and if you're in the UK and just wanted to visit, you could fill out the form for a reader's ticket, and then come down here to order in advance. You could fill this out and give them a detailed description of what you're looking for. They could have that ready for you, or if you just couldn't visit and you wanted to pay them to search through the records for it and to digitize it or just make a copy for you, you could come here. It's a flat fee of £8.24 to do the page check, and then depending on the nature of the documents or how difficult it is to digitize or the number of documents, they'll give you a quote for the cost of copying the record and providing it to you. And exactly how much it costs going through the UK for this, I have no idea. I've never gone through the UK National Archives, but on the US side, similar services, anywhere from 20 to a couple hundred, depending on the nature of the documents, is what I've seen and what I've been quoted in the past. But it sounds like a lot, but weigh that against the cost of visiting these places and digging through the archive yourself. If you know specifically what you need and can explain to an archivist in, again, very, very specific terms what it is that you need, having them do it is a very, very good option. And for my part, I've been trying not to dig too deeply until I get really to the end of this series and know exactly what I would need to fill in any of the gaps that I feel like I'm missing here just looking at the squadron records. But research like this is really all about figuring out what questions to ask next. So it's really, really easy to get going down the wrong path if you start to gather up too many resources too early, and to focus on the wrong things before knowing what the right things are to focus on. So let me go ahead and wrap this up today, and we'll move on to the 16th and get closer and closer to this breakout from the beachhead and the lodgement area here. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.